Hey peeps, Erin Zen Warrior here. Welcome to Bank Holiday Monday here in Auckland, because it's Auckland Day. What does that even mean? We have an Auckland Day, we have a Wellington Day, we have a Christchurch Day. I'm like, it's just a city, people. I'm not quite sure why it needs a holiday, but I'm happy to take it. And I was happy to be out partying last night as well. Topic for today. Few dating realities. I often end up discussing and coaching couples and using human design to appreciate their subjectivity. I spend a lot of time talking to people about dating and where they're struggling. And you'll note that there are conversations that come up also on my Facebook page about this. And I think what's really interesting, I have not done a do not disturb on here. I always do that, and then people are texting. It's very annoying. Anyway, there's a lot of people out there trying to redefine how to date, how to couple, how to do this, how to do that. And they're all looking for certainty and some sort of strategy. And I'm like, there have always been strategies around dating. There have always been strategies around being successful at these things. And for some people, they work some of the time. And most of the time, they don't fucking work. Like, that's actually kind of the truth, right? Most of the time, they don't work, but in part, that's because your expectation is not realistic. People want this relationship of till death do us part. They want the fantasy. They want the Cinderella story. And as I often love to point out, no one ever talks about what happened to Prince Charming and Cinderella after they got married. They only ever talk about the romance and the honeymoon up to actually getting married, which wasn't that good anyway in Cinderella's case. But they never talk about Cinderella wearing track pants and going through menopause and not wanting to be touched, or, having children's vomit all down the back of her shirt, or Prince Charming coming home smelling of some other woman's perfume. They never talk about that stuff. And that's the very real reality of dating in modern times, is you don't live in a fucking fairy tale, and it's not till death do us part. You don't want a death sentence in your relationship anyway. You want an expansion opportunity. And so people want to believe in the one. There's no fucking one. There are many soulmates. But what is a soulmate? A soulmate is someone that is going to help you expand, and you're going to help them expand. People like to talk about narcissists as if they're the worst people on the planet. And I'm like, there's a reason you're with a narcissist. And I'm not saying that because you're with a narcissist, it's going to be a narcissist. You're a narcissist. But there's something leaking in you that when I was in that situation, I believed in the fantasy. There was something in me that had a fantastical idea around what relationship was going to mean in my life. What relationship actually means in my life, that I can say at this point, is that I get to expand through it. I get to learn through it. And sometimes it's the hardest relationships, sometimes the most abusive relationships, where that happens the most, where that's the most groundbreaking fucking invitation you're ever going to see. And because we have all these preconceived ideas about how we're going to get in a relationship, and we're going to find some sense of safety or some sense of partnership, or it's all going to be, rose petals and sweet smelling things for the rest of our lives, and it's all going to be sweet and great. And ask anyone who's been married for a really long time, and I have an uncle and aunt that I absolutely adore have been married for a really long time. I have a few actually that have been married for a really long time. Like, they're very good at that in my family. My parents, my stepfather and my mother have been together for 35 years, right? Maybe slightly longer. And they're great. They're a great couple. But it doesn't all smell sweet. I've seen my mother in tears, not because he's a bad guy, but because they're in a tough situation, and the way that they're communicating about it in that moment sucks, and she doesn't know what to do, and she feels stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that's relating. I've also seen them have a fight, disappear off in different directions, come back 5 minutes later, and it's all business as usual because they got shit to do. To me, that's a good relationship. There's still war there. There's still two individuals being individuals. That's a great thing, right? And two individuals are very different people. But there's also a practicality there. I get to say what I want to say. You get to say what you want to say. And at the end of the day, we've got to get back to business, because we're a partnership. We are here to build something. And that's really a business transaction, People have this idea about what women should be. People have this idea about what men should be. And what I see a lot of is a lot of people are not self-reflective enough to actually be wholly present in a relationship without trying to turn the other into someone for them. So what I'm essentially saying is that when you're looking out there in relationship for something that you feel you're missing, whether it's, I'll be happy if I have the perfect person, or a lot of what I see, like I see a lot of guys who are well off, retired, basically retired. So they're still doing projects and stuff, but it's like retirement fun now, you know, making money. And they've decided that their life is going to look a certain way. And they've done all of that and they've achieved it, and that's amazing, right? And they're in a pretty good place, and they're like, now what I need is a woman to come join me. And I'm like, great. On what conditions is that woman going to come join you? Because we live in a funny time now, right? Where women are doing everything for themselves. And there's sort of almost an expectation in dating that women are going to come with their own money. I don't think that that's necessarily unrealistic. In fact, I'd almost say that it's essential to establish yourself without needing a man. Not because you don't want a man, right? But because you actually need your independence to not prostitute yourself within a relationship. And that can go both ways. It just more commonly goes that way for the female, that we make a lot of compromises for financial reasons. I think anyone making compromises for financial reasons within relationship is prostituting themselves, whoever that is, right? And it's not a freedom. And it comes also out of the child archetype. And that child archetype is looking for safety outside of themselves, because when we were born, we were really fucking vulnerable in this world. So it's natural that we can carry over some of that child. So if you don't really understand your archetypes and how your archetypes are playing out in your life, it's quite possible that you're going out there and trying to connect into relationship as the wounded child, as the prostitute archetype, as, you know, as the hero, you know, as the hero archetype. And then you find that you're committed and obligated into something that you don't want to be obligated into. And maybe you did initially, maybe you were happy with that initially, and then eventually it becomes stifling, because what you did was you were archetypally relating instead of differentiated within your relating. And how do you differentiate? How do you become an individual if archetypes are running? First, you have to get real with the fact that archetypes are running. You have to be able to see them, and then try not to let them screw you over as you enter into things. And invariably, when we get into a relationship, that's exactly what's going to happen. Your archetypes are going to rear their ugly heads, you know. Even trying to get into a relationship, or the desire to get into a relationship. And people are like, well, do you not desire a relationship? I'm like, no, not really. I thoroughly enjoy it. Fucking cool. Love it for as long as it lasts. Oh, so what do you want out of a relationship? I want expansion. I want someone who's whole enough to be present with me. Oh, but what about a house and a marriage and a this and a... No. I want the adventure, and the adventure is seeing what's available. The adventure is not defining something, but allowing it to unfold. And as we go forward into a right-orientated world, that is a passive, receptive, absorbing, non-strategic, non-planned world, this is, honestly, I just don't see relationship functioning well any other way. You want to contrive it, you want to make it safe, you want to give traditional gender role theory to it and all this sort of stuff. And look, there's something in that. There really is. But when you're talking about conscious, whole, self-responsible beings, eventually they will progress beyond that. And then that will just become another strategy that's somewhat stifling, you know, just like marriage has become that. Marriage seems like a great idea when you're talking Prince Charming and Cinderella, until the marriage is signed, sealed, and delivered, and now you've actually got to live the reality of that contract. We have some sort of soul contract with some people or whatever it is. Yeah, there are really interesting bonds playing out that we don't fully understand. But to really honor them, we have to allow each other to be free. And being free means getting out of strategically trying to organize each other into something that works for us. And when I say works for us, I mean works for the archetypal bleed that you're in, essentially. You want to have a good relationship, you're going to have to be a powerhouse. and hold out for someone who's a powerhouse. Wait until they turn up. And hey, nobody's perfect and we all make mistakes and all these archetypes are going to rear up. But if you've got someone who's actually present and conscious, they're going to be interested in bringing awareness to that archetype and not having it affect you or them as they go forward, not having it limit their individuality or yours. Doesn't that sound awesome? Doesn't that sound like everything you were looking for? And yet people are like, oh, well, how am I going to have kids? Look, I have friends who have kids and I see that their relationship evolved itself. And they knew that there would be kids. It was just a knowing that came through them. It wasn't, I don't even think it was that much of a discussion, you know? It evolved. You have to let it evolve. Their relationship evolved. I think for a long time they wondered why they were even together, but it kept evolving. They kept being present with what was there. And it's quite a unique relationship. I think anyone who's still together after however many years is, 35 years in my parents' case, there has been an allowing of an evolution. And yeah, there's been commitment, but that commitment also evolved. They're also older, so they're more in the old archetypes. But I think as we go forward into the new stuff, radical self-responsibility and letting go of trying to strategize your relationship into form before it's ready. Let it reveal itself. So, women are complaining about men still, men are complaining about women. My observation as I step back is there's just not enough awareness playing out. And so you've got to develop your awareness. Have a great day. And hey, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, ask questions. Let me re-clarify things. And by all means, there's way more archetypes to talk about as well. Victim archetype is a really interesting one. I see that one play out in relationship and dissolution of relationships all the time. I've been in 2 discussions this weekend with 2 different men, and basically they're making themselves the victim, right? And again, because they've tried to strategize something. Oh, well, I made my choice. Why wasn't she into it? Well, just because you make a choice that she's the one doesn't mean that you're her one. Just because you sacrifice something there, she didn't agree to that, obviously, or you'd be there, So just awareness around there has to be good conversation in a meeting. And if the meeting is not happening, even if the person is saying they want the meeting to happen, but all their actions are not meeting you, people show you who they are. Fucking believe them and stop trying to make them something for you. Have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, wherever you're seeing this, etc., etc. Otherwise, have a great day, and I'm going to go off and find myself something to eat. Bye.